Hello, today I'm going to be reviewing a book, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. I first became aware of the work done by Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky in about mid-1990s. I was a freshly minted management consultant, having just completed my education in finance and computer science. I used to believe that the world is filled with economic, rational decision makers, and that's how we all make decisions. So the book and the work changed my worldview completely. Since then, Daniel Kahneman has won the Nobel Prize, and I have gained 20 years of life and work experience. And safe to say, I do not hold the same view about our rational infallibility anymore. If you are one of the people who does continue to hold that 2 plus 2 is always 4, and no matter how it is presented, that will be the decision and perception of everyone, you would do well to read the book in detail. The book is filled with hundreds of experiments that have been done on highly educated people, experts, and in many different circumstances, and it convincingly would prove to you that people are certainly not rational all the time. Their core work is called the prospect theory, and it basically talks about three sources of error. The first is anchoring. We get biased in our estimates with completely unrelated pieces of information. If expert real estate brokers are shown a house and told that the asking price is $1 million versus the same exact house and told that the asking price is $1.5 million, their answer and estimate of what they think the house is really worth would be totally shaped by that number, which should have no bearing really if they're trying to evaluate a house. The second is the marginal utility. If you were to gain $100 when you have $100, its utility is much more than if you were to gain $100 if you have $900. Though rationality would say that $100 is the same no matter what wealth you have to begin with. It also reflects on how we negotiate, for example, for a house where a $100,000, $200,000 here or there in a big house purchase may not make a big impact to people, whereas they would spend a ton of time and effort in trying to negotiate even $10 on a used piece of furniture that they may be looking at a market. Then the third bias is loss aversion, where the loss from a neutral point is a much bigger loss of utility to us than a gain. So these things together help us shape the biases that we incur all the time in our decision making. The second and more important part of the book is an explanation of why this happens. And Kahneman has proposed a system 1 and system 2 part of the brain. He says that system 1 is the reactive, associative, very quick part of our brain, which takes the information and in literally milliseconds comes back with the quickest association, reaction, estimation that it can to give a quick answer. Most of our decision making during the day is based on system 1. And it is susceptible to very predictable biases. Depending on what it associates the information with, it will make a judgment based on that. There is a second, more contemplative, reflective part of the brain, which is called the system 2. That one does take out the calculator and does the math and makes sure that the numbers are correct. But it's lazy. It does not get engaged all the time. So this explanation is quite interesting, and Kahneman goes quite a bit into detail on how this may have evolved in our brain and how we use it. So it's worth reading the book just for that. Finally, Kahneman also talks about an experiencing and a remembering self. I won't go into it because that's not the core part of the book. I would end this review by saying this links back to our other spiritual journey, because what it encourages us to do is not be reactive and associative, but be contemplative. And you can only achieve by overcoming your system one part of the brain and recognizing when it is not going to be sufficient, and be a keen observer of what the reality is around you. Thank you.